You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and it's just the trifecta to get to, so I'm not going to waste any time. It's time to recap the Dallas Cowboys draft. It's funny, going into this draft, there were a lot of people scared about what Jerry Jones was going to do. This is a guy who wanted to take Johnny Manziel over Zach Martin, but then his football people talked him out of it. This year, Jerry Jones secluded himself on his yacht to run the draft. God only knows who else was on the yacht with him. But Jones had full autonomy to run that draft. A lot of people were scared of that. Instead, Jerry Jones put together arguably the best draft class out of any team. The fact that he was able to pick a sliding CD Lamb is stunning. Not stunning that the Cowboys took him, stunning that he fell to 17. This is a guy who some people had as the best wide receiver in this draft. I personally thought he was the 9th best prospect in this draft. He was behind Jerry Jeudy, to me. But I know some people that had Lamb ahead of Jeudy. In the mock draft that I did with Nick, we had him going 13. Instead, he slips to 17. You cannot make this stupidity up. Not the stupidity in taking Lamb, but the stupidity that he slipped that far. The Denver Broncos are next. It's very similar to Jeudy slipping. The Broncos did the right thing in taking Jeudy. The Cowboys did the right thing in taking CD Lamb. You'd be hard-pressed to find anything that Lamb does wrong. I mean, seriously, you could watch a bunch of games that he played at Oklahoma, and he was catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks. Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, and Jalen Hurts. I understand that those guys are really skilled college quarterbacks. But still, usually when you're in college, you have the same quarterback for at least 2 years. Lamb didn't have that. Lamb's going to have more consistency in Dallas than he did in Oklahoma. Because Dak Prescott's going to be there for a long time, despite what some people in the media will tell you. Fantastic pick by the Cowboys. It was also a fantastic pick to take Trayvon Diggs. I had Diggs as the 32nd best prospect in this draft. Again, in the mock draft, I had him going 29. He slipped to 51. ESPN was more correct than me. They had him at 39. Diggs is a jack of all trades, master of none. His instincts aren't the greatest, but they're not terrible. He does have some durability issues. He missed 9 games in 2018 with a broken foot. That did scare some teams, but he played 12 games last year and played really well. It's very rare that you're going to find an Iron Man who can play every game. Football's a violent sport. It's okay to miss a few games. You just need to have the depth to make it up. I think Diggs is going to be a great player for the Cowboys for a long time. I also think that Neville Gallimore is going to be a great player for the Cowboys for a long time. This is a guy who I had as the 43rd best prospect in this draft. ESPN had him at 49. The Cowboys took him at 82. He slipped into the 3rd round. The Cowboys did a fantastic job of picking these players that, for some ungodly reason, slipped in this draft. Gallimore's another jack-of-all-trades, master of none. His pass rush skills are okay. They're not great. They're not terrible. The thing that a lot of people didn't like about Gallimore was his tape. He didn't jump off the film at Oklahoma. Only 27 tackles last year. Only 4 sacks. But I really think Gallimore is going to be able to increase his production at the next level. He has all the physical gifts to do it. I really think that the Cowboys did a fantastic job of picking just good football players. Reggie Robinson was a really divisive prospect. ESPN didn't have him on their final big board, and they went all the way to 306. Whereas Lance Zierlein of NFL.com had him as a 4th rounder. He has a great frame, great size, and he has good ball skills, but he's not that fast. He's not a good tackler. He can play corner. I've seen some people saying he's going to have to switch to safety. That is not true. He's not the tackler that he needs to be to play safety. He can be a corner in the next level. It's a risky bet to take Robinson in the 4th round. You like his frame, you like the length of his arms, but he's got to be faster, he's got to get stronger. This was a little bit of a reach to me. I didn't love the pick. I didn't hate the pick. I had a late 5th round grade on him. I'm not going to kill the Cowboys too much for that. Tyler Biadasz was viewed by a lot of people in the early parts of this process as the best center in this draft. Now, Cesar Ruiz rightly took that spot over as the process unfolded. Part of that was because Biadasz didn't have a great year at Wisconsin. He was a good pass blocker 12 months ago, but then as the season unfolded, his pass blocking skills got worse. Now, he's a jack of all trades in every other aspect. Very durable, smart guy, great frame. The fact that the Cowboys were able to pick him in the compensatory part of the 4th round is scary. He won't make Cowboys fans forget about Travis Frederick, but he'll certainly help heal the wound that was left when Frederick was forced to retire. I had Biadasz as the 58th best prospect in this draft. ESPN had him at 89. He went at 146. Absolutely amazing. Bradley Anae was taken in the 5th round. I think it's Anae. It's either Anae or Anae. I think it's Anae. Bradley Smith. He was taken in the 5th round. I had an early to mid 3rd round grade on him. ESPN was a little lower on him. They had him at 106. See, the thing that you hate about him is his frame. He's 6'3", 257 pounds. He's going to have to rely a lot on his athleticism if he's going to succeed in the NFL. But he's a really athletic player. He has great instincts, good speed. See, the combine really hurt him. The 40-yard dash, he ran in 4.91 seconds. But when you watch the tape, you can see he starts out like a bat out of hell, and then it just wanes and wanes and wanes. That's okay. I don't mind that. Okay, he's not going to be able to tackle guys in the open field, and look, that's going to hurt him as an outside linebacker. There's no question. He's going to have to play outside linebacker. He can't play defensive end. He only weighs 257 pounds. He's going to be pancaked every play. It's going to be difficult for him to tackle running backs in stride, but if he can match up with guys one-on-one, watch out, because he has the strength to do it. The talent is there for him to really, really pan out. And he filled a huge need for the Cowboys. Then, with their last pick, they took Ben DiNucci, a quarterback out of James Madison. He makes sense as a long-term backup. He's going to get to sit for a year behind Prescott and Dalton and learn Mike McCarthy's offense. He profiles as a solid game manager if everything goes right for him. He's never going to be a flashy player, but he's smart, he's athletic, has good speed. It wouldn't surprise me if he panned out as the Cowboys' long-term backup. All in all, I love what the Cowboys did. It's hard to give them anything worse than an A. They took some great football players. They filled their needs incredibly well. Great job, Jerry Jones. I mean, really. You went into this draft with a lot of scrutiny. You hit it out of the park. Great job. Alright, it's time for this day in sports history. On this day in 2003, Dave DeBusschere died of a heart attack in Manhattan at the age of 62. There were a lot of different ways that I could have gone with this. I could have done Ed Walsh. I could have done Gump Worsley. I went with DeBusschere because I did the Nets yesterday, so I figured I'd make the Knicks fans happy by doing DeBusschere. Although DeBusschere actually did have a front office job for the Nets when they were in the ABA. But he didn't do a lot there. DeBusschere, throughout his life, was gifted in sports. In high school, he was a great basketball player, out-dueled Chet Walker to help his high school, Boston Catholic Prep, win Michigan's Class A high school basketball championship. Thank you, Wikipedia, for that. After that, he went to Detroit Mercy. I don't know how other schools didn't pursue him, but good for Detroit Mercy. He led them to the NITs twice, March Madness once, and he led their baseball team to 3 tournament berths also. That's the thing that a lot of people don't remember about DeBusschere, and they should. He was a really good pitcher. If DeBusschere decided to pull a reverse Michael Jordan, stop playing basketball and stick with baseball, he would have been a really good pitcher. This guy pitched in 36 games for the White Sox between 1962 and 1963. He went 3-4 with a 2.9 ERA. And 61 strikeouts. That's not bad. I'll take that. Okay, he wasn't a strikeout pitcher. You know what? He was still getting guys out. DeBusschere would have been a really, really good pitcher if he had stuck with baseball. But fortunately for Knicks fans, he decided to stick with basketball. He didn't start his career with the Knicks, though. He started out as a Detroit Piston. He had to stay close to home. See, back then, the NBA draft had territorial picks, which meant that teams could forfeit their first rounders to pick any player from within a 50-mile radius of its home arena. DeBusschere was that territorial pick, and he made that decision look really smart his rookie year. He played in every game, averaged just under 13 points, 9 rebounds, and he averaged a little over 2.5 assists. His sophomore year, he got hurt, and then his third season, something unprecedented happened. Charles Wolf started the year as coach of the 64-65 Pistons, was not a good coach for him, was fired 11 games into the season. Who do you think took over as their head coach? DeBusschere. Dave DeBusschere, at the age of 24, became the youngest coach in NBA history. Could you imagine a player in his third season becoming a head coach and a player at the same time? That would be like next season, Luka Doncic becoming head coach. Needless to say, it didn't go that well. While DeBusschere was dominating as a player, he averaged a double-double his last 4.5 years with the Pistons, and he made 3 All-Star teams. His stint as coach was terrible. He never finished with more than 29 wins. And you really gotta wonder how anyone thought that would be a good idea. But it does speak to the respect that people had for DeBusschere. People realized the talent that he was. And they wanted to make him happy. Midway through the 68-69 season, DeBusschere was traded to the Knicks for Walt Bellamy and Howard Komives. While Komives had a solid career, and we all know how great Walt Bellamy was, needless to say, that trade worked out a little better for the Knicks. DeBusschere was the perfect fit for a Knicks team that needed a gritty power forward, a guy who could help Willis Reed in the post, would bully players inside, would be a double-double threat every night. Even though Reed and DeBusschere were both undersized, Reed was 6'9", DeBusschere was 6'6". The two of them together combined for one of the best front courts in NBA history. And it kills me to say that as a Nets fan, but let me tell you, I've watched some of those old games. Watching those teams play is really, really fun. Red Holtzman did such a good job with them. Reed, DeBuscher, Walt Frazier, Dick Barnett, Bill Bradley, Phil Jackson, Cazzie Russell for a little bit before he was traded. After Russell was traded, Jerry Lucas, Dean Meminger, Earl the Pearl Monroe came in. I mean, how do you get any better than that? The Knicks stole Monroe, by the way, from the Baltimore Bullets. Mike Riordan and Dave Stallworth for the Pearl. Look, Riordan had a few good seasons, and Stallworth was a decent player, but nothing like the Pearl. Those old Knicks teams were simply fantastic. But you can't overstate the importance of DeBuscher to those old teams. DeBuscher was their defensive anchor. 6-time NBA All-Defensive First Team. All with the Knicks. He was a physical player, wasn't afraid to bang bodies inside. One of the toughest players in NBA history. Without DeBuscher, it's fair to wonder if the Knicks get over the hump and win those 2 NBA titles that they won in 70 and 73. DeBuscher retired in 1974. Took him way too long to get his number retired. Some people think that's because he took that Nets front office job. I don't know if that's true or not. What I do know is that his number is up in the rafters now. Better late than never. I'm pretty sure that he was alive when they retired his number. So at least he got to see it. DeBuscher was actually the last commissioner in ABA history. Helped orchestrate the merger between the ABA and the NBA. Took over as Knicks director of basketball operations and was in charge when the Knicks won the draft lottery that landed them Patrick Ewing. And you can see DeBuscher during the lottery, he's just winking at the camera, looking at the camera like, hey, we're going to do this thing, we're going to get him, we're going to be successful again. I mean, Ewing brought the Knicks back to relevance. They didn't win a title, but they were relevant again with him. When the NBA did its 50 best players in 1996, DeBuscher was one of them. I don't have DeBuscher in my top 50. I have him at 74. But I can understand why people would have him in their top 50. Great player. May he rest in peace. Alright, it's time for another Mount Rushmore. We're on the St. Louis Cardinals now, the second most successful franchise in baseball history. We all know the Yankees have won the most World Series with 27. The Cardinals are second with 11. If you doubled the amount of World Series that the Cardinals have won, they still wouldn't have as much as the Yankees. Gotta love it. This Mount Rushmore was pretty easy to put together. I don't think anyone can disagree with this, and if you do, you're wrong. I'd be willing to accept other Mount Rushmores for other teams, but I don't see how you can disagree with this. The correct Mount Rushmore is Stan Musial, Bob Gibson, Albert Pujols, and Lou Brock. If you want to disagree with the order, you can, but those 4 guys are inarguable. ESPN Classic used to have a show called Who's Number One. that I watched religiously. And one of their shows was Top 20 Most Underrated Players in... It was either MLB history or sports history. No, it was sports history, because Tom Watson was on it. Sports history. Number 1 was Stan Musial. And you'd have a hard time disagreeing with that. I mean, when you think of the greats of baseball history, it probably takes you a while to get to Stan Musial. It shouldn't. This guy made 24 All-Star teams. A 3-time MVP, 3-time World Series winner, won 7 batting titles, has oodles and oodles of bold type, over 3,600 hits, 475 home runs, while guys like Willie, Mickey, and the Duke hog the spotlight. We should have included Musial in that also. Bob Gibson was one of the most feared pitchers in baseball history. Won an MVP, 2-time Cy Young winner, 9-time All-Star, 2-time World Series MVP. That's insane. He didn't want to get on his bad side because he wasn't afraid to hit you. He stood his ground and fielded his position insanely well. 9-time Gold Glove winner. You don't need me to tell you how great Albert Pujols was for the Cardinals. When he was there, he was the best player in baseball. And I remember in MLB The Show always signing him with the Yankees. And I'd move Mark Teixeira to the outfield. So I had Pujols and Teixeira. Yeah, I was winning a lot of games. And Lou Brock is the second best speedster in MLB history. Has 938 steals, behind only Rickey Henderson on that list. He was only a 6-time All-Star, though. You gotta wonder how he only made 6 All-Star teams. That's a bad job by the fans there, but regardless, Brock won 2 World Series, had over 2,700 hits for the Cardinals, has over 3,000 hits in his career. As we all know, or at least we all should know, he started with the Chicago Cubs, spent the first 3.5 years of his career there, but then was traded to the Cardinals for Ernie Broglio. There were other players in the deal, but it really boiled down to Brock for Broglio. While Broglio was a good pitcher for the Cardinals, the second he got to the Cubs, he fell flat, and Brock ended up making the Hall of Fame. Without question, one of the worst trades in sports history. Tomorrow, you're definitely going to get the trifecta. Hopefully there will be some sports news. I love talking about sports news more than I like doing the trifecta. Not that I don't like doing the trifecta, but I love talking about the latest in sports also. Not just the greatest. It's latest and greatest. Keyword and. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that they say some stars drink whiskey, but I found that the ones who drink milkshakes don't win any ball games.